The Midnight Mass. It was one of those aimless nights, the kind where boredom hung heavy in the air. Jenny, Mark, Chris, and I found ourselves wandering the quiet streets of our small town, desperately searching for something to break the monotony. The dim glow of streetlights illuminated our path as we contemplated various options to inject some life into the mundane evening. As we strolled, the idea of exploring the old abandoned church on the outskirts of town emerged. Its decaying structure had always piqued our curiosity, and tonight seemed like the perfect opportunity for a bit of unconventional adventure. Little did we know that this seemingly innocent decision would thrust us into the heart of the inexplicable, forever altering the course of our ordinary night. The old church loomed ahead. Its silhouette stood against the night sky like a forgotten relic of bygone days. We approached cautiously, our steps echoing off the crumbling walls. The heavy wooden door, though weathered by time, stood defiantly closed. As we inspected the entrance, Mark, ever the adventurer, decided to give it a push. To our surprise, the door creaked open, revealing a dark and musty interior. The air, thick with the scent of decay, enveloped us as we crossed the threshold into the abandoned church. Our flashlights swept across the desolate interior of the church, revealing dusty pews and ancient religious artifacts. The silence within was almost deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the aging structure. As we ventured further, we stumbled upon an inconspicuous door at the back of the church, its hinges squeaking in protest as we cautiously pushed it open. Behind the door, a narrow staircase led downward into darkness. A faint draft brushed against our faces, carrying with it a cool, stale scent. Intrigued, we exchanged glances, silently agreeing to explore the hidden depths of the church. Descending the staircase, we discovered a dimly lit corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly into the bowels of the building. The air grew colder, and the atmosphere shifted from abandonment to an eerie stillness. It was then that we noticed a faint glow emanating from a partially open door at the end of the corridor. Approaching cautiously, our flashlights revealed an entrance to the basement. A cold draft wafted from below, and distant murmurs of indistinct chants reached our ears. Concern etched across our faces as we hesitated at the threshold, contemplating whether to proceed into the enigmatic depths of the church's hidden chambers. As we approached the entrance to the basement, the distant murmurs of chants and the flickering lights beyond raised an unsettling tension among us. The basement, by all accounts, should have been abandoned, devoid of any signs of life. The realization that something peculiar was unfolding beneath the church's surface sent a shiver down our spines. Arriving at the basement, we were met with an otherworldly sight. The room was adorned with mysterious symbols, illuminated by an arrangement of candles. Hooded figures surrounded a makeshift altar, their rhythmic chants filling the chamber. Jars of peculiar substances and bizarre artifacts scattered on the floor painted a picture of an occult ritual. Frozen in place, we exchanged glances that spoke volumes. This was no ordinary exploration. We had stumbled upon a clandestine gathering, engaged in an inexplicable ritual beneath the abandoned church. The basement's hidden chamber unveiled a scene that defied logic. Hooded figures continued their rhythmic chants around the makeshift altar, their movements synchronized like actors in a dark play. The symbols on the walls pulsed with an otherworldly energy, and the flickering candlelight cast elongated shadows, dancing to the eerie cadence. As the ritual continued, an unsettling feeling settled in the pit of our stomachs. The air seemed charged with an unseen force, and a sense of vulnerability took root. The church's basement, once a forgotten space, transformed into a stage for an arcane performance that held us captive in its otherworldly grip. Yet our curiosity kept us rooted to the spot, unwilling to tear our eyes away from the unfolding spectacle. Little did we know that the bizarre encounter was about to take an even darker turn. As we continued to watch the ritual unfold, a hushed tension gripped the air. The hooded figures, lost in their rhythmic chants, suddenly shifted their focus to the center of the makeshift altar. A figure, distinguishable by the intensity of its chants and the fervor of its movements, seemed to be overtaken by an unseen force. The atmosphere thickened as the possessed figure convulsed, its voice morphing into guttural tones that echoed through the chamber. It spoke in a language unfamiliar to us, a language that seemed to transcend the boundaries of the mundane. Fear and fascination mingled as we realized we were witnessing a communion between the earthly and the supernatural. The possessed figure, a conduit for an entity beyond our understanding, spoke with an authority that sent shivers down our spines. Its words were cryptic, carrying an ominous weight, as if unveiling secrets that should remain buried. The hooded congregation bowed in reverence, their devotion unwavering. The revelation of the possessed figure and the chilling communion with an unseen force sent a shockwave through our group. Fear replaced fascination as we exchanged wide-eyed glances, the gravity of the situation sinking in. The occult ritual, initially a bizarre spectacle, now unfolded into a nightmarish encounter with forces beyond our understanding. As the possessed figure continued its otherworldly dialogue, our initial paralysis transformed into a frantic need to escape the unfolding horror. Stifled gasps accompanied our hurried retreat, each step echoing against the cold stone walls of the basement. The once fascinating occult gathering became a realm of peril, and the realization that we were intruders in this arcane theater fueled our desperate flight. However, our escape was abruptly halted. 3 hooded figures, their faces obscured, emerged from the shadows. Panic set in as they blocked our path, the dimly lit corridor closing in on us like a trap. Without a moment's hesitation, a struggle ensued. We fought desperately, adrenaline coursing through our veins. In the confined space of the corridor, the air became a battlefield, filled with the sounds of muffled grunts and shuffling footsteps. In the chaos, we grappled with our assailants, each of us wrestling with the hooded figures in an attempt to break free. Amidst the chaos of our desperate struggle, Chris, who had momentarily distanced himself from the physical altercation, spotted a makeshift weapon on a nearby table. A heavy-looking object, perhaps an old candlestick holder, lay within reach. Seizing the opportunity, Chris grabbed the candlestick holder and swiftly approached one of the hooded figures from behind. With a determined precision, he delivered a swift blow to the back of the hooded assailant's head. The unsuspecting figure crumpled to the ground, knocked out cold. Taking advantage of the momentary reprieve, Chris and Jenny rushed to our aid. Together, we combined our efforts, overpowering the remaining hooded figures, ensuring that the struggle did not prolong and that the threat was neutralized. This allowed us a brief moment to catch our breath. However, the basement's eerie silence was shattered by the abrupt cessation of the occult ritual. It became clear that the unexpected noise from our struggle had drawn attention, and the distant echoes of approaching footsteps reverberated through the corridors. Amidst the urgency of our escape, the dim light revealed more hooded figures emerging from the shadows, their pursuit relentless. The sound of footsteps grew louder, prompting us to sprint towards the staircase. However, in the frantic race to escape, Jenny stumbled over an uneven floorboard. Without hesitation, Mark rushed to her aid, extending a helping hand. Tragically, their attempt to regain their footing proved futile, and both Mark and Jenny were captured by the hooded figures. The agonizing decision to abandon our friends weighed heavily on us as we continued to sprint up the staircase, driven by the desperate need to escape the malevolent forces below. The main room of the ancient church greeted us with a haunting silence as we briefly caught our breath. The realization of Mark and Jenny's capture echoed in the emptiness around us, leaving an indelible mark on our desperate escape from the occult encounter below. With heavy hearts, we exchanged glances and continued our escape. The ancient walls seemed to absorb the weight of our collective burden as we contemplated our next move. The decision to alert the authorities became even more urgent. The narrow escape from the clutches of the occult ritual demanded swift action. As we navigated the desolate main room, the distant echoes of our footsteps seemed to reverberate with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Leaving the ominous basement behind, we pushed open the creaking doors and stepped back into the night. The moon cast a spectral glow on the old church, now a silent witness to the inexplicable events that had transpired within its walls. Determined to seek help, we hurried through the quiet streets of our small town. The night seemed to carry the weight of our unease as we navigated the familiar paths. The decision to alert the authorities weighed heavily on us, each step echoing the urgency of our mission. Arriving at the local police station, we relayed the harrowing events that transpired beneath the old church. The incredulous expressions on the officers' faces mirrored the skepticism we anticipated. However, after persistent pleas and a shared sense of urgency, the officers reluctantly agreed to accompany us back to the abandoned church. Descending once more into the basement, the ritual chamber stood before us, devoid of the hooded figures. The officers carefully inspected the scene. Despite the meticulous search, the basement revealed no signs of the occult gathering or our missing friends. A cloud of frustration settled over us as the officers dismissed our claims, attributing the strange events to mere shadows and imaginations running wild in the darkness. They politely but firmly suggested that we leave the matter be, assuring us that there was nothing to be found in the abandoned church and that our friends would probably show up the next morning. As we stepped back into the night, the unresolved mystery of the occult ritual and the disappearance of Mark and Jenny lingered like a haunting presence, refusing to be easily dismissed. Returning to our ordinary lives proved challenging after the fruitless investigation by the authorities. The weight of the unexplained events lingered, casting a somber shadow over our small town. The disappearance of Mark and Jenny remained a mystery, haunting our conversations and dampening the once familiar surroundings. As weeks passed, we occasionally exchanged concerned glances when the old church was mentioned, but the urgency to revisit its cryptic depths waned. The community's skepticism and reluctance to acknowledge the supernatural added an extra layer of frustration to our quest for answers. Late one night, a mutual understanding led us to the old church. The moonlit glow painted an eerie picture as we ventured into the basement, the atmosphere heavy with the unspoken acknowledgement that we might never uncover the truth. The ritual chamber remained unchanged, frozen in time, devoid of the hooded figures and their mysterious chants. In the silence, our flashlight beams revealed no trace of the occult gathering or the missing friends we desperately sought. With heavy hearts, we emerged from the basement once again, the cold night air providing little solace. The unresolved mystery of the occult ritual and the fate of Mark and Jenny persisted, a haunting puzzle that refused to yield its secrets. The small town, once a haven of familiarity, now held a mystery that eluded our grasp, leaving us trapped in the echoes of a nightmarish encounter that defied explanation. As I recount these events, the memories linger like a chilling breeze, a reminder that the ordinary can swiftly transform into the extraordinary. We might have escaped the clutches of the unknown that night, but the echoes of the abandoned church still resonate in our minds. Life moves on, but the darkness we witnessed in those sacred halls will forever be etched into the fabric of our shared history. That's all for today, folks. If you've enjoyed today's story, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of it and what type of story you would like to hear about next. See you all very soon.